I bought my boyfriend a brand new Mustang, but instead of thanking me, he smirked and said, I wanted a night with your sister. She's way hotter. That moment, I smiled and quietly began planning his public destruction. I bought Derek a brand new Mustang GT for his birthday. A black one, exactly the way he'd been talking about for months. Leather seats, turbo engine, matte finish. I saved for over a year. Skipped vacations. Picked up side gigs. Cut corners. I knew it would blow his mind. And for a second, when I handed him the keys in front of his friends at the steakhouse downtown, I thought I saw a flicker of surprise in his eyes. Then he smirked. That's cool, Emma, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. But that's not what I asked for. I blinked, confused. What? He chuckled and turned to his friend Matt. I told her what I wanted, right? A night with her sister. You know, because she's actually hot. The table fell silent. Someone coughed awkwardly. Matt's face turned red. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. The kind of laugh that escapes when your brain short-circuits. Derek took a sip of his whiskey like nothing had happened. I smiled and nodded like I hadn't just been humiliated. But inside, I shattered. I met Derek a year and a half ago, back when I was still learning how to breathe again. My mom had passed from ovarian cancer 6 months before. My dad had checked out emotionally years earlier. My sister Jenna was living in another state, and I had just moved to Austin to take a job at a nonprofit that paid in pennies and stress. I felt invisible. That's when Derek showed up. He made me laugh. Said I had a messy smile. That was his favorite thing in the world. He'd text me at 7 a.m. with, thinking about you, and call me beautiful before bed. When we kissed for the first time, he said, you feel like home. It felt like a fairy tale. Until it didn't. At first, the red flags looked like rose petals. He joked that my clothes were a little librarian. Suggested I try something more like that girl at his gym. He'd ask if I was really going to eat all that. When I cried, he'd get annoyed. I'm still here, aren't I? He'd say. The first time he made fun of me in front of his friends, it was about my job. She works at this tiny nonprofit, barely makes rent. It's adorable. Everyone laughed, including me. But my throat had gone dry. Still I stayed. Because he'd kiss me on the forehead later. Because he'd say, no one else would put up with you, Emma. I believed him. The shift wasn't overnight. It was slow, subtle. He'd cancel plans and blame me for being too needy. He'd make jokes about my body that lingered in my mind longer than they should have. He said I was too emotional, too dramatic, too much. I started apologizing for everything. I started second-guessing myself. I stopped talking to Jenna as much. She didn't like Derek. She said he reminded her of someone she once dated who broke things without touching them. But I wasn't ready to listen. The night of his birthday, after the dinner, after the Mustang insult, I sat in the car for an hour. The parking lot was empty. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my fingers went numb. I didn't cry. I just sat there, blinking into the dark, trying to remember the last time Derek had made me feel safe, or seen, or wanted without strings attached. I couldn't. That's when I knew. This was over. But not in the way he expected. I didn't break up with him the next day. I didn't scream or throw the keys at his face. I smiled, made breakfast, acted like nothing had happened. But I called a therapist. I texted Jenna, you were right. I'm sorry I didn't listen. And I opened a new Google Doc titled, For the Day I Leave. In therapy, Dr. Marlene Winters helped me name things I had avoided for so long. What he's doing, she said, is psychological abuse. I flinched. That word felt too dramatic. Derek didn't hit me. He never even yelled. But he broke me. Quietly. With sighs. With silence. With you're lucky I stay. Dr. Winters taught me to recognize the patterns. The gaslighting. The manipulation. The way Derek kept me tethered by guilt and obligation. And with each session, I felt a little less broken. A little more mine again. Then came the day I confronted Jenna. We were having coffee at a cafe on 6th Street when I brought it up. Has Derek ever said anything weird to you? I asked, pretending to scroll through my phone. She went quiet. After a long pause, she looked up. You really want to know? Yes. He told me once that he thought it'd be fun if you were cool enough to share. I thought it was a joke. But he asked again, when you were in the bathroom. I nodded. He also told me that he could do better than you. That if he ever upgraded, I'd be on the list. I nodded again. My hand was shaking. I put down my coffee before I dropped it. Jenna's eyes filled with guilt. Emma, I didn't tell you because I thought you'd leave him. And when you didn't, I figured maybe you knew. I didn't, I whispered. But now I did. Later that week, I reached out to a few women Derek had dated before. One of them worked at a bar downtown. Another had mutual friends with me on Facebook. I didn't expect much, but what I got was a floodgate. Stories about pressure, mind games, emotional blackmail, jealousy, manipulation. He told me I'd be nothing without him, one girl wrote. He used to flirt with my roommate in front of me, said another. He told me I was replaceable, that if I ever gained weight, he'd trade me in. I saved every message, every screenshot, every voicemail. I didn't leave Derek immediately, because this wasn't going to be a quiet goodbye. This was going to be a reckoning, and it was going to start at his next birthday. Derek loved his birthday like it was a national holiday. Every year, it was the same script. Rooftop bar, rented photographers, overpriced catering, and a guest list that read more like a resume than a celebration. He'd invite old professors, high school enemies, exes, just to flaunt how well he was doing. So when he said, "This year has to be the biggest yet," I nodded and smiled. "Absolutely, babe. Leave it to me." I knew then, this would be the last party he'd ever throw. I started by saying all the right things. Told him we should go for champagne towers, maybe a saxophone player for ambience. He ate it up. He had no idea I was already talking to Virginia. I'd met her through my support group. A woman in her 50s who'd been through worse than me and somehow carried herself with unshakable grace. I told her everything. She didn't blink. She just said, "If you want to expose him, you need to be surgical." So I got to work. I called Jenna. Told her I forgave her for not speaking up earlier. I didn't say it to make her feel better. I said it because I needed her on my side. Jenna had connections, print shops, delivery drivers, event staff. She looped in her friend Marcus, a quiet IT guy who barely spoke, but knew how to secure audio files, hide cameras, and scrub metadata. We met twice a week for 6 weeks straight, planning every detail. The goal wasn't just revenge. It was evidence. I collected screenshots, voice notes, emails. I spoke with 6 women Derek had hurt, 3 exes, 1 coworker, 1 barista, and 1 girl who didn't even date him but had been harassed by him at a gym. Each of them agreed to contribute a testimony. Jared, the guy who once stood up for me at Derek's birthday dinner, offered to help too. "I've heard him talk when he thinks no one's listening," he said. "It's bad." He sent me audio clips. Some were disgusting. Others were heartbreaking. In one, Derek joked about a woman's SA experience and called her dramatic. In another, he bragged about cheating because Emma would never leave. "She's too soft." I stopped listening after that. I didn't need to hear more. I already knew who he was. With Marcus's help, I compiled everything into a booklet titled, "Things Derek Says When He Thinks No One's Listening." Each copy was bound in matte black. Minimalist. Elegant. Just like Derek liked his aesthetics. We printed 75 copies. Each one had its own section. To his exes. To his coworkers. To his family. To his friends. To me. And then, the last page. A full-color photo of the Mustang GT with the caption, "It wasn't the car you didn't want. It was a woman you couldn't control." The venue was a rooftop on 4th Street. Glass railings, neon lights, skyline views of downtown Austin. Derek showed up early in a custom suit. Checked his reflection in every surface he passed. Guests poured in around 7. I greeted them at the elevator, hugged people I barely knew. Derek took credit for the event planning. I didn't stop him. I just kept smiling, counting down the minutes. At 8:15, he clinked his glass. "Can I have your attention, everyone?" he announced. "I just want to say, this party is amazing." And obviously, I did it all. Laughter. I stood beside him, beaming like the perfect girlfriend. "Actually," I said, "I have one small surprise for everyone." Gasps. Applause. Derek turned to me, grinning. "You didn't have to." I held up a hand. "Under each of your seats, you'll find a black booklet. It's a collection of stories, things Derek has said or done, from people who know him best." The first few seconds were still playful. People laughed, thinking it was a gag gift. Then someone gasped. Then another. A woman said, "Oh my God," under her breath. One man dropped his drink. Derek's sister froze mid-page, reading about how he'd mocked her infertility and called her a barren husk with a reading addiction. His mother clutched the table, wide-eyed. His dad's hands trembled as he read Derek's line about spitting on his grave once the money stops coming. Derek's voice cracked. "This is bullshit." Nobody said a word. He looked around, desperate for someone, anyone, to defend him. But the silence was louder than any insult he'd ever thrown. He turned to me, face pale. "What the F***ck did you do?" I said nothing. He grabbed my arm. Hard. "You think this is funny? You think you can do this to me?" I didn't flinch. But Jared stepped forward. "Let go of her." Derek didn't move. His jaw clenched. "She's just a pathetic nobody trying to ruin me," he hissed. "You all know what this is. She's mad because I wanted to end it." Nobody responded. A woman stood up and walked out. Then another. The crowd unraveled. Friends, colleagues, even his boss. One by one they left. And I walked away without a word. I didn't go home that night. Jenna drove me to her place, didn't ask questions, just opened a bottle of wine and handed me a blanket. I curled up on her couch and stared at the ceiling. I should have felt triumphant, victorious, but all I felt was empty, because it wasn't over. Not even close. At 3 a.m., my phone lit up. "Derek, you're dead to me. I'll make sure you regret this. I'll ruin you. I hope you burn in hell." 1 minute later. "I'm sorry. I messed up. Please, Emma, don't leave me." I turned the phone off. Not because I was afraid, but because I'd heard it all before. The next morning, I went to our apartment while Derek was at work. Packed 2 suitcases, my laptop, and the photo of my mom from the nightstand. I left the car keys on the counter with a sticky note that read, "You still think the Mustang was the problem? Good luck figuring out what the real one was." I moved into a sublet Marcus helped me find. Small, overpriced, and perfect. Secure building. Doorman. New locks. Jenna gave me extra kitchenware. Jared helped me build a desk. Virginia left flowers at my door with a card that read, "The worst part is over. The rest is yours." But the peace didn't last. Because Derek didn't stop. He showed up outside my office. He left roses on my doorstep. He texted from different numbers. Created burner emails. And then, one night, I came home to find my door slightly open. Inside, it was chaos. My clothes were slashed. Books torn. Lipstick smeared across the bathroom mirror. This isn't over. I called the police. They shrugged. No cameras? No witnesses? Shared residence before? That complicates things. I showed them the bruises on my arm. The text threats. The destroyed property. They filed a report. And told me to be careful. I returned to Dr. Winters the next day. "I'm scared," I said, finally allowing the truth out. I thought he'd be angry. I didn't think he'd be everywhere. She nodded. "You have every right to be scared. But you also have the right to live your life. We'll make a plan. You're not alone." That was the moment I knew. The rooftop party wasn't the climax. It was the beginning. The moment I stopped being a passenger in my own story. The moment I decided, he doesn't get to write the ending. 3 days after the break-in, I still couldn't bring myself to go back to my apartment. I slept on Jenna's couch with the lights on. Every sound outside the window made me jump. I couldn't eat. Couldn't rest. Couldn't think past the lipstick scrawled across my mirror. This isn't over. And the thing is, I knew Derek meant it. When Derek made a threat, he wasn't just venting. He was making a promise. I went back to the police station. Detective Reed was the one handling my case now. Mid-30s, perpetually tired, the kind of guy who looks like he's seen everything and stopped caring a little too long ago. "No hallway cameras?" he asked, scrolling through my initial report. "No," I said. "And I'm the only person living on my floor." He sighed. "No direct witnesses, no video. Makes it tricky. Technically, the restraining order is still being processed, right?" I nodded. "Then your best option is to document everything. Screenshots, photos, voicemails. Record anything you can. And try not to be alone at night." I walked out of the station numb. The law was a piece of paper, and I was living in a story without a referee. Dr. Winters offered me a double-length session the following day. "You can't live like this, Emma," she said gently. "Hypervigilance is your body's way of trying to keep you safe, but it'll wear you down. You need to reclaim some power." I stared down at the cup of tea in my hands. "But what can I do if the law won't help me?" She gave a quiet smile. "You're not alone." That Thursday, I went to my support group. We met in a small community center downtown, with flickering lights and metal chairs that always squeaked too loud. The same circle of women. The same quiet strength. Virginia sat next to me. She was a survivor of a marriage that had nearly cost her everything. She had this aura, like you'd break before she did. Like steel wrapped in silk. As I told them about the lipstick message and the open door, their faces didn't change. No shock. just the knowing sadness of women who had lived it. You need evidence, said Alice, a wiry tech expert who had once tracked her stalker using a phone signal and a hidden dashcam. We get him on camera, Virginia added. Not to hurt him, just enough to force the system to act. Jenna looked across the circle. This time, we don't just watch it happen. We do something. The plan was simple in theory, complicated in execution. A fake art gallery event. I posted it on my old public Instagram account, the one I hadn't used in a year but knew Derek still followed. I made it seem casual, a local artist showcase, celebrating women's resilience. Marcus, who worked in real estate, lent us a vacant commercial space that hadn't been rented yet. Virginia transformed it into a convincing pop-up gallery using rented prints and temporary lighting. Alice handled the cameras. Angela, a former military trainer and part-time self-defense coach, installed discreet recorders and took point on logistics. Jared offered to be backup security. He didn't say much, but I trusted him. Everyone had a role, and mine was to be the bait. Friday evening, I wore a black dress, sleek but simple, and a tiny hidden mic under my collar. Jenna pretended to browse the exhibit. Virginia sat near the entrance, reading a book. Angela was parked across the street with eyes on the door. Alice monitored the camera feeds from a laptop in the van. We were all in position. At 7:43 p.m., Angela texted, "Blue Audi just parked across the street." I froze for a second, then inhaled deeply and turned to face the entrance. 7:47 p.m. Derek walked in like he owned the building. He looked worse than I remembered. Tired, unshaven, thinner. But his posture? Still arrogant. His eyes scanned the room and landed on me like a target. "Fancy seeing you here," he said. I didn't flinch. "You're violating the restraining order. You need to leave." He scoffed. "You really think a piece of paper is going to protect you?" I said nothing. Every word was being recorded. Every second, documented. He stepped closer. "You ruined my life, Emma. My family won't talk to me. My boss fired me. My friends are gone. All because you couldn't keep your mouth shut." "You did those things to yourself," I replied. "I just stopped covering for you." He clenched his jaw, eyes flashing. "You think this makes you strong? You think exposing me means you won?" Then his voice dropped low. "I know where you go. You've been staying at Jenna's. You take self-defense classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You always stop at that coffee shop near 6th Street. I see you, Emma." My heart thudded hard, but I didn't step back. Instead, I planted my feet and raised my chin. "You don't control me anymore." That's when he grabbed my wrist. Virginia materialized beside me with terrifying calm. "Is everything okay here?" she asked, voice soft but commanding. Derek turned, annoyed. "Mind your own business, lady." "She is my business," Virginia said, steel under velvet. "And you're hurting her." Derek looked down at his hand like it surprised him. Then let go, stepping back. "This isn't over," he muttered. And just like that, he turned and walked out. Angela's voice came through the mic in my ear. "We got everything. Clear audio. Clear video. It's airtight." My knees went weak. Virginia grabbed my elbow gently and steadied me. "You did it," she whispered. "Now we make them act." The next morning, I brought the footage and transcripts to the police. I demanded to speak to Officer Reed's supervisor. A heavy-set sergeant named Colton reviewed the materials in silence. When it was done, he leaned back and nodded. "This is enough. More than enough. He threatened you. He admitted to stalking. He violated the restraining order on camera. We'll issue the warrant today." I should have felt relieved. But I knew Derek. Cornered animals don't surrender. They bite. That night, I stayed at Jenna's again. Every knock at the door made us jump. At midnight, someone banged 3 times hard. Jenna peeked through the peephole and exhaled. "It's the police." I opened the door to Reed and another officer I didn't recognize. "We've been trying to locate Derek Langston," Reed said. "He's not at his apartment. His car's gone. His parents say they haven't seen him in weeks." My stomach dropped. "So he's just out there?" "For now," the other officer said. "But his description is out to every patrol unit. It's only a matter of time." But time was the one thing I didn't have. Every day that Derek was free was another day I had to live looking over my shoulder. The next few days passed like a slow-motion horror film. I worked from home. I barely slept. I stopped walking alone even in daylight. The group rallied around me. Virginia brought groceries. Alice double-checked my devices for tracking software. Angela upgraded the cameras in my apartment and had me carry a personal alarm on my keychain. One night, Jenna stayed over and found me sitting on the kitchen floor at 3 a.m., gripping a baseball bat and crying silently. I don't want to be like this forever, I whispered. You won't, she said. But right now, you're surviving. And that's brave, too. Still, Derek hadn't been caught. Every time I got a text from an unknown number, my heart skipped. Every time I saw a black car in traffic, I panicked. Even my dreams were no longer safe. He'd show up in them, always angry, always chasing. Dr. Winters adjusted my medication and encouraged me to start processing what happened. Part of trauma is realizing it's not just about what happened to you, she said. It's about what was allowed to continue happening after. She was right. I wasn't just recovering from Derek. I was recovering from a world that kept telling me to document. Wait, be careful, stay hidden. I was tired of hiding. 2 weeks after the trap, I got a text. Unknown number. No name. Nice trap. Cute cameras. But you'll never catch me again. I froze. He was still watching me. But this time, I wasn't the girl who cried in the parking lot. This time, I wasn't alone. I had a network. I had proof. And I had the will to keep going. Because if Derek ever came back, I'd be ready. A week passed. Then another. No sightings. No messages. No black Audi parked outside my building. For the first time in months, I started to exhale without flinching. I went back to work in person. Started sleeping without checking the locks 3 times. Even had dinner at Jenna's without glancing out the window every few minutes. It felt normal. Until the email came. Subject line, I see you. Always. The body of the email was a photo of me that morning, walking into my office building, wearing the same blue dress I'd chosen after 15 minutes of indecision, carrying the same iced coffee I always grabbed from the corner cafe. The timestamp was just 2 hours old. I stared at the screen, a sick wave crashing over me. He wasn't gone. He was watching. I forwarded the email to Detective Reed with a note. He's back. He's watching me. Again. The response came an hour later. Thanks for the info. We'll try to trace the source. Might be using a VPN or throwaway address. Keep documenting everything. Same script. Same shrug. I didn't even feel surprised anymore. Just tired. Dr. Winters was furious. This is stalking. It's criminal. The restraining order should cover this. Should, I said. But unless he touches me, no one does anything. She leaned forward, her voice low and steady. Then we find a way to make them act. The support group rallied again. Virginia, Alice, Jenna, Angela, we became a task force. Alice started tracking IP patterns. Angela took me through a new set of self-defense drills, close combat scenarios, restraint escapes. Jenna stayed with me more nights than not. Let him try again, she muttered one evening, setting a kitchen knife beside the couch. I dare him. I wasn't sure if she was joking. Then the next email came. A photo of me and Jenna. From last weekend, sitting at the coffee shop near my apartment. The angle suggested it was taken from outside, through the glass window. Caption. That laugh you do when she tells the story about Cancun, adorable. My chest tightened. He was close. Always close. Alice recommended a trap. We'll feed him a pattern. Make him feel in control. Let him come to us. We picked the coffee shop. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I sat at the same table by the window. Jenna or Marcus would sit nearby, pretending to be strangers. Angela watched from a parked car. Virginia blended in with the morning crowd, always with a book. 2 weeks. Nothing. Then on the 3rd Tuesday, at 9:03 a.m., Marcus texted. Blue hoodie. Sunglasses. Across the street by the bookstore. Looks like him. My pulse spiked. I kept sipping my coffee. Forced a smile at my phone. Angela confirmed. He's watching. Has his phone out. Probably taking pictures. I texted Detective Reed. He sent a patrol car. 10 minutes later, 2 uniformed officers approached the man. They talked. He gestured animatedly. Showed something on his phone. Then, they walked away. They walked away. I stared through the window in disbelief. I texted Reed again. Why didn't they detain him? The reply. He said he's a photography student working on an urban life project. Nothing illegal unless we prove intent to stalk. Intent. Apparently, stalking didn't count unless you wrote, I'm stalking you on your forehead. That night, another email arrived. Cute little sting operation. Cameras can't save you. I see you. Always. I felt like I was unraveling. Panic became a second skin. I flinched at doorbells. Jumped when my phone buzzed. At the support group that week, I broke down. I've tried everything. The system doesn't care. He's going to keep doing this until I either disappear or he does. Virginia put her hand on mine. Then we make him disappear. I looked up. What do you mean? Legally, she said calmly. We don't hurt him. We don't threaten. We expose. Again. Harder. Sharper. In a way that even the system can't ignore. Angela and Alice worked overnight. They built a real-time tracking system, motion-triggered alerts outside my apartment, synced with emergency contacts. They created a dedicated evidence vault, every email, every timestamp, every IP address mapped, and backed up across 3 cloud drives. Jared helped us design a second sting. This time at night, when Derek thought I was most vulnerable, I posted a story saying I'd be attending a gallery event downtown. Real venue this time, real guest list. But the actual gallery knew what was going on. The staff were briefed. Cops would be on standby nearby. We waited and waited, but Derek didn't show. Instead, another email arrived. Getting sloppy, sweetheart. I see your little squad. This is fun. Angela looked up from the screen, eyes dark. He's daring us now. He wants a reaction. That Friday, I stayed late at work. The office was quiet, just me and 2 IT guys down the hall. At 8:04 p.m., I headed to the garage. Dim lights. Concrete walls. My footsteps echoing between the pillars. I was halfway to my car when I heard it. A step. Behind me. I spun around. Nothing. Hello. I called, voice thin. No answer. I kept walking, faster now. Then my headlights illuminated him. Derek. Standing 20 feet away. Hoodie. Jeans. Phone in hand. He smiled. I froze. He took a step forward. I reached into my bag and texted a preset message. Code red. Location garage. It pinged to Angela and Virginia. Derek raised his phone. A message buzzed mine instantly. We need to talk. One conversation. Then I'm gone forever. I shook my head. Leave me alone. I will, he said. Just meet me tomorrow. Noon. Main Street coffee shop. If I say no, then I disappear again. And you'll never know where I'll pop up next. He turned. Walked away. Vanished into the shadows like he'd never been there. Angela and Jared showed up 3 minutes later. But he was already gone. That night, I didn't sleep. Virginia stayed over. Angela reviewed every camera angle. Jenna made tea none of us drank. The next morning, I got dressed slowly. Jeans. Flat shoes. Pepper spray in my jacket. At 11:45 a.m., I walked into the coffee shop on Main Street. Virginia was already at a back table. Angela was in the car outside. Marcus sat near the exit, pretending to read. At 12:01, Derek walked in. Clean-shaven. Smiling. Like we were old friends. He sat across from me. Thanks for coming, he said. Say what you need to say, I replied. I've been thinking a lot. About what happened. About who I was. I said nothing. I know I hurt you. I know I crossed lines. I wasn't well. Still, I said nothing. I'm in therapy now. Real therapy. My cousin got me a job in Seattle. I leave tomorrow. He handed me a one-way plane ticket. I looked at it. The name matched. The flight was real. I won't bother you again. I just needed you to see that I'm trying. I studied his face. He looked tired. Honest, maybe. Or just empty. I hope you mean that, I said. Because if you ever come near me or anyone I love again, I will not be gentle. He nodded. Fair. Then he stood. Goodbye, Emma. He walked out. Virginia joined me a minute later. Do you believe him? I don't know, I said. But part of me, just a sliver, hoped it was real. That night, a new email came. Seattle postmark. A scan of the therapy registration receipt. And a note. Keeping my promise. Goodbye. For real this time. D. 1 week after Derek's message, I woke up and realized. He hadn't contacted me. No texts. No emails. No shadow lurking outside the building. No black Audi parked 2 blocks down. Nothing. I stared at the ceiling for a long time that morning, waiting for fear to return. But it didn't. Not right away. Just silence. Not the kind that suffocates. The kind that lets you breathe. I didn't tell anyone right away that he was gone. Because honestly, I didn't believe it yet. I still check my security cameras twice a day. Still scan the street every morning before work. Still rehearsed self-defense moves when I washed dishes or brushed my teeth. Some habits take longer to die than the person who created them. But little things started to shift. I walked home with both earbuds in again. I wore the red lipstick Derek used to say made me look trashy. I left my curtains open at night without panicking. Tiny rebellions. Personal victories. Proof I was still here. 1 month later, I got another letter. Seattle postmark again. Same blocky handwriting. Inside, a printed receipt for a full year of therapy sessions. No note this time. No signature. Just evidence. I showed it to Dr. Winters. She studied it for a long time. Do you think he's telling the truth? I asked. She smiled, faint but real. That's the wrong question. What's the right one? Does it matter? She was right. Whether Derek was healing, lying, or gone for good, wasn't mine to carry anymore. I had carried enough. I moved again. Not out of fear. Out of choice. I wanted a space that didn't have ghosts in the corners. Someplace that didn't whisper his name when the heater clicked or the fridge hummed. My new place was smaller, higher up, with a balcony that caught morning light. Marcus helped with the lease. Angela installed new security features. Jenna came over with a box of plants and a bottle of white wine. This place feels like you, she said as she opened the blinds. Light. Open. Strong. I laughed. It's just a one-bedroom apartment. She looked at me. So were the last two. But you're different now. And I was. I hadn't noticed the shift at first. But over time, it became clear. I spoke louder. Walked straighter. Laughed without apology. I stopped making myself small to keep others comfortable. Stopped saying sorry when I meant no. Stopped giving my time, my heart, my forgiveness to people who hadn't earned it. I didn't just recover. I changed. Virginia noticed it before I did. You should come speak at the next intake night, she said one Thursday. We have 4 new women joining. They're scared. They need to see someone who's made it out the other side. I hesitated. I'm not sure I'm on the other side. Virginia gave me that same calm stare I had learned to trust. You're not on the edge anymore, either. So I stood in that circle. Same flickering lights. Same squeaky metal chairs. But this time, I wasn't shaking. I introduced myself. Told the Cliff Notes version of my story. And when I finished, I looked around and said, you won't feel like this forever. You won't always be afraid of parking garages, or phone vibrations, or men who raise their voice. You won't always feel broken. But even if you do, being broken doesn't mean you're weak. It means you survived something that tried to kill you without leaving a mark. And that takes a different kind of strength. One of the new women cried quietly. Virginia reached over and held her hand. And I realized, maybe I wasn't just healing anymore. Maybe I was helping others heal, too. Angela asked me to guest teach one of her college self-defense workshops. I almost said no. Then I remembered how it felt the first time Derek grabbed me, and I didn't know what to do. I remembered the elevator, the garage, the way his hand on my wrist used to paralyze me. So I said yes. We met in a university gym. 15 students. Mostly women. Some young, some my age. They looked at me like I was someone who had the answers. I told them I didn't. But I had tools. And scars. And that sometimes was enough. Angela guided them through drills. I walked the floor, correcting posture, offering encouragement. One girl, maybe 20, maybe less, froze when it was her turn to simulate a wrist escape. I can't, she whispered. I don't like when someone touches my arm. I looked at her, took a slow breath. I didn't either, I said. But you're here. And that means you already started fighting back. She nodded. And she tried again. I saw Derek only once more. Or maybe I didn't. It was 3 months after the coffee shop meeting. I was walking through a farmer's market on a Sunday, holding a tote bag filled with tomatoes and fresh bread. The sky was blue. My playlist was on shuffle. And then I saw him. Across the street. Blue jacket. Hood up. Hands in his pockets. He didn't move. Didn't approach. Didn't wave. Just stood there. Watching. I didn't stop walking. I didn't change direction. I didn't reach for my phone or cross to avoid him. I looked him in the eyes. And then I smiled. Not sweetly. Not kindly. But the way survivors smile when they know they've already won. I kept walking. When I looked back, he was gone. Maybe it was him. Maybe it wasn't. But in that moment, it didn't matter. Because I wasn't scared. Not anymore. I still have bad days. There are nights I double-check the locks. Mornings where I catch myself scanning the parking lot. Dreams where I wake up sweating, convinced I'm back in that elevator. But they're just shadows now. Echoes. Nothing more. I kept one of the booklets from Derek's rooftop party. Not to remember him. To remember me. To remember that version of myself who stayed quiet for too long. And the one who finally said enough. It sits in the top drawer of my desk. Right next to my pepper spray. And a photo of me, Virginia, Jenna, and Angela. Arms wrapped around each other, laughing. I'm not the woman I was when I met Derek. Hell, I'm not even the woman I was the night I exposed him. I'm something else now. Something harder to break. Something stronger. And maybe, someday, I'll fall in love again. Maybe I'll trust someone. Maybe not. But either way, I will never go back to the girl who mistook control for love. Silence for peace. Pain for passion. I survived Derek. I survived the aftermath. And in the process, I found a version of myself I didn't know existed. One who fights. One who leads. One who never forgets her worth. And that, more than anything, is my real victory. It's been a year since the rooftop party. 12 months. 52 weeks. 365 days since I dropped a bomb on Derek's life and walked away without looking back. So much has changed. And yet, sometimes, I still catch myself holding my breath in parking garages. Still sleep better with the hallway light on. Still hesitate before opening emails from unknown senders. But that's the thing no one tells you about healing. It's not clean. It's not linear. It's slow and jagged and full of days that feel like setbacks. But it does come. Quietly. Steadily. I never heard from Derek again after the farmer's market. Maybe he really did move to Seattle. Maybe he really stayed in therapy. Maybe he finally learned what the word consequences means. Or maybe not. Either way, I stopped waiting for him to appear. I stopped rehearsing what I'd say if he did. Stopped living like my past was just a doorway waiting to be kicked in. Now, I live like the front door is mine. I choose who walks through it. I kept volunteering with Angela's self-defense class. Eventually, she started letting me co-teach. We don't just throw punches and scream, no. We talk. About warning signs. About coercive control. About how sometimes the most dangerous men are the ones who never raise their voice. We help women understand that abuse isn't just bruises. It's isolation. It's control. It's fear disguised as romance. The first time I saw someone flinch when I raised my hand, just to demonstrate a move, I paused. I put my hand down, took a breath, and said, "You don't have to be ready to fight someone else yet." Sometimes, the first fight is with the voice in your own head. That girl cried after class and hugged me. I still attend support group. Not because I need it the same way I used to, but because I believe in showing up. For the next woman who walks in, eyes wide and broken. For the girl who still believes maybe it was her fault. For the one who hasn't said the word abuse out loud yet. Virginia told me once, survivors don't owe the world their story. But when they choose to share it, it builds bridges for others to cross. So I tell my story. Not because I want pity. Because I want someone else to survive too. Jenna and I are closer now than we've ever been. She's dating someone new. A kind, soft-spoken guy named Chris who builds custom furniture and bakes banana bread on Sundays. I tease her about it. She teases me back. But we both know the truth. We've been to hell. We came back whole. Different, but whole. Marcus ended up introducing me to someone. His name is Jordan. He lives in the same building. We met in the laundry room when I dropped a bottle of detergent on his foot. I didn't flirt. Didn't ask for his number. But he showed up 3 days later with a coffee and said, "In case your toes are still sore." He didn't push. Didn't crowd me. Didn't text 16 times in a row. Just showed up. Gently. Quietly. Consistently. We've been seeing each other for 4 months now. I've told him everything. The good. The awful. The part where I almost gave up on men entirely. He didn't flinch. He just listened. Held my hand. Asked what I needed instead of deciding for me. One night, after dinner at his place, we stood on his balcony watching the lights of downtown flicker below. "I don't know if I'll ever be normal again," I whispered. He looked at me. "I don't want you to be," he said. "Normal never survived what you did." Dr. Winters retired 3 months ago. On our last session, she gave me a book of quotes she'd collected over the years from patients she admired. Mine was on the inside cover. She didn't burn bridges. She detonated entire islands and built lighthouses out of the wreckage. I cried when I read that. Not because it was beautiful, because it was true. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Derek hadn't said those words about my sister at the restaurant. If I hadn't gone to therapy. If I'd let it slide again. Would I still be with him? Still slowly disappearing? Still convincing myself that love meant shrinking? I don't know. But I do know this. One day something snapped. Not like a breakdown. Like a breakthrough. The sound of a woman realizing she'd rather lose everything than keep losing herself. Now, when I look in the mirror, I don't see the girl who begged someone to treat her like a person. I see a woman who walked through fire and came out the other side not just alive, but lit from within. If someone out there is reading this, if you're where I was, if you're still measuring love by how little it hurts today compared to yesterday, let me say something to you. You're not crazy. You're not too sensitive. You're not hard to love. You're just around someone who doesn't know what love is. Get out. Get help. Tell someone. And when the world tells you it wasn't that bad, or at least he didn't hit you, or you should have left sooner, tell the world to shut the hell up. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your survival. I'm not perfect. I still get scared. Still cry on the anniversary of the party. Still wake up sometimes with my heart racing and no idea why. But I'm free. And freedom, I've learned, isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just the quiet knowledge that your life is your own. So no, this isn't a story about revenge. It's not even about Derek. It's about becoming. And in becoming, I found everything I thought I lost. My voice, my peace, my power, my people, and most importantly, myself.